This is a special report from WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network. A special election was held in the 4th Congressional District out in Kansas. Now, the 4th Congressional District makes up south central Kansas, and the largest city there, there's 17 counties there, south central Kansas, that includes the largest city of Wichita. It was to replace a seat held by Mike, let's see, what was his name here? Prompro. Hope I pronounced his name correctly. Nonetheless, he was named CIA director. It was a seat that he won by about 30 points just in November, and DJ Trump won the district also. But tonight it was a very close race, and let me go to the latest results here. We did incidentally a special on it, calling the title of the episode was Dorothy has left Kansas, and the yellow brick road is no longer there. The last time the Democrats held this district was in the 90s. Now let me see. With 94% of the precincts reporting here, the Republican Ron Estes has 52% of the vote, 58,295 to 51,924, or 46% of the vote for big Jim Thompson. The Democrat was running, and the Libertarian candidate got almost 2,000 votes, 1,930 votes, or 2% of the total in that district. Now, some Republicans would say it did not affect DJ Trump, but no doubt it did. And also at the same time, Jim Thompson appealed directly to working class voters, the voters that had been hailed by DJ Trump, the European working class voters. Now, he was a supporter of, this is James Thompson, a supporter of Bernie Sanders. So this is a new and different type of Democratic Party. He talked about his rise from a family, the working poor, to being an attorney and in the interim member of the Armed Forces of the United States. Whereas this guy Estes had not been. He made the comment that Estes didn't run his campaign, didn't do his fundraising, etc. The Republican Party brought in Lion Ted, even had DJ Trump do a robocall telling people that they needed to go out and vote for Estes. Now, the situation is that the Democratic Party in that area has been basically laying dormant for a very, very long time. Out of the city of Wichita with its aircraft factories, not as many as it had previously had. I remember once going out there to run a campaign for the trade unionists. There were those people. Dan Glickman at one time was the Congress person from Wichita for a very, very long time. So there were progressive people there. And if you've read the book, What Happened to Kansas, well, you can understand the influence there of the evangelicals. In fact, there was a last-minute panic attack, and the Congressional Republican Committee put in quite a lot of money into the campaign and ran an ad claiming that Jim Thompson had talked about trimester abortions, I believe it was, and also selection of sex selection type abortions. Now, this is something that you hear about primarily in places such as India. The problem there was that he, in fact, had never called for that. They used the old assumption tests, alternative facts they call it, and ran it as a commercial, flippable. Now, there was very little polling done here. The only poll that was commissioned by Mr. Thompson had him behind by 30 points. So we're looking at the latest here. It is 52 to 46, basically around the 6-point race. When Propal, whatever his name is, had won that district, was by 30 points back in November. So you can see a lot of work was done here, and we have 94% of the precincts in now. 58,000 for Estes and 51,000 for Jim Thompson. So he's at 46, and he is at 52%, and of course declared by the AP. I would agree with that in the sense that these votes are coming out of Sedgwick County, which is Wichita, but given that he is ahead here by roughly about 6,000 votes, it would be very, very difficult to make up. I don't know what precincts are out and what are in, but where these votes are coming from. And we don't have the final, as far as that is concerned. We don't have it as of yet. But this campaign did demonstrate one thing, that a grassroots campaign coming virtually from nowhere can garner votes in very red districts. And this is the Wichita Eagle here, the unofficial. Estes had 53% of the vote, and Thompson had 45. Now, if we go to Kate TV, it's at they have it at 52%, and I don't know if he's dropped a percentage point or not. I'm looking at the latest, but they have not updated there. So in other words, he's still at 46 here. You're going to have a little different numbers here. Now, these are unofficial. Estes at 53%, Jim Thompson at 45%, and Rockhold at 2%. Rockhold is the Libertarian. But this is news that is looked at from a progressive type of tilt. Now, the Republicans would have you think that this only applied to Kansas and very unpopular government there, Brownback. Brownback had been a senator there in in Kansas, a pro-life person, no doubt about that, but an interesting character in himself. He was one of the major backers of the Martin Luther King Memorial, which you wouldn't think that he would be there, but that does happen. While we're here, let me bring you up on some other things here. The FBI obtained a secret warrant. This is from the Washington Post to monitor Trump advisor Carter Page. So this thing is still sizzling. This Russian Federation connection, it will not go away. And at the same time, the mouthpiece, press secretary of DJ Trump, criticized President of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, alleged the use of chemical weapons, saying that even Hitler, who used gas chambers to kill millions of Jews, did not sink to that level of warfare and was not using gas on his own people. in the same way that Assad is doing. Now, I was looking at, this is from someplace else here, I'm not sure. Oh, this is by Rosenwald, Michael Rosenwald. Hitler refused to use sarin gas. They had it around at the time. It wasn't because he was less evil. This is a weird thing. Less evil than Bashar al-Assad, despite the press secretary Spicer's deftone statement that someone is as despicable as Hitler didn't use chemical weapons the way Assad did. It wasn't because Hitler didn't have sarin gas. The Russian scientists had stumbled in to sarin while experimenting with compounds in an attempt to kill bees. The German military in 1943 built sarin factory. It's been around for a very long time. And they claim, and this is various pundits, that he didn't use sarin gas because he was a victim of a mustard gas attack in 1918, that's during World War II. And I doubt it very seriously. Now, Hitler wrote, I began to feel the pain, and this is in his My Story, Mein Kampf, in other words, a book read in the West. So the claim here is if Hitler had used it on the battlefield, that is, Churchill would have retaliated with his own chemical weapons. These chemical weapons have been around a very, very long time. And they are now called the poor man's weapon. So in other words, it's nothing new. And mustard gas has been around a very, very long time also. Now, Churchill embraced the use of chemical weapons. This is back to World War II. I can't understand that his skimmishness about the use of gas, the future Prime Minister wrote in a 1919 memo. It's not necessary to use only the most deadliest gases. Gases can be used will cause a great inconvenience, which spread lively terror, and yet would leave no serious permanent effect on those affected. Effects on those affected. So that was that particular story, but this story gets to be a little bit more farcical as we go along here with it. Another story here, and I've seen these around where the U.S. has so-called new evidence discredits the Russian claims on sarin, the attacks. Now, from the fix here, Trump just made very strange comments about his chief ideologist from alt-right, Steve Bannon. We don't yet know what Steve Bannon's fate is, but by judging from Trump's own words, it doesn't sound particularly good. In a brief exchange with a reporter from the New York Post, Trump seemed to deliberately place Bannon at arm's length, suggesting that his role as an advisor has been oversold and even threatening to appearing to threaten Bannon's job. Goodwin, this is a reporter, asked Trump if he had confidence in Bannon, who was reportedly feuding with his son-in-law. I like Steve, but you have to remember he was not involved in my campaign until very late. Trump said, I've already beaten all the senators, all the governors. I didn't know, Steve. I was my own strategist, and it wasn't like I was going to change his strategies because I was facing a crooked Hillary. Ouch. He joined the campaign in August for the lion's share of the general election, taking a role in the campaign as CEO. He and Kellyanne Conway, the campaign manager, were titular heads of the campaign. Trump then kept Bannon as his chief political advisor in the White House, serving along with Remus there. In his comments to Goodwin, the Goodwin reporter for the Post, also nodded to the tensions that exist in the White House. Steve's a good guy, but I told him to straighten it out, or I will, said Trump. Trump's always volunteering to do something, so one does not know. The question that I think you should ask the president should be the chief of staff. Miller said on Meet the Press. Flynn resigned the next day. Shortly before the National Security Guard of Flynn, who was long gone, Trump's advisor, this Stephen Miller, another nut, also declined to give him a vote of confidence. Well, it doesn't matter. Bannon, and according to the fix, has been a lightning rod since his first days at Trump's side, owning to his nationalist policies and previous leadership in Breitbart. Once described Breitbart as a platform for alt-right, small far-right movement in seeking a white-only state. Well, there's no doubt about it. I think the question to be asked here before Steve Bannon is with Trump. Trump has already got the alt-white vote. Does he actually need them anymore? And is he retreating to the traditional Republican alt-white base? There's no difference there with the exception of name. In fact, many of the policies are as right-wing or more right-wing than Bannon's. Bannon's policies had something of populism within them and a nationalist policy as far as the foreign policy. What they have done now is shifted to a predatory policy, an America First policy, but at the same time, basically with the neocons going out and taking up as many pieces of the world as a person doing. And David Ignatius here, and I will close out and go back once again, got Syria and China right last week. That's a start. Well, he didn't get anything right. The decision to strike a Syrian base was a confidence builder for the inexpensive. That's silly. Those raids had been planned well in advance, no doubt about that. But when we see David Ignatius, who's been around a very long time, writing this type of flaptrap, you know right away that they're going into a I guess what we'd call Cold War days with the Russians. And there's a lot of problems with this whole thing. The world has changed. I noticed from reading, who was it, Newt Gingrich, was talking about comparing the strike to when Reagan knocked down some Libyan bombers. Well, that was in 1981, a very, very long time ago, and in a different world, period. And let me finish up with David Ignatius rebuffing Putin, is a worthy goal that, if an unlikely one, they had a former Defense Secretary Gates offered critical caveat. There's merit in getting the Russians all balanced politically, but being a military unpredicted when the Russian forces are directly involved is very risky business. Dr. Gates is correct about that. It's not the way we want to go. Let me just go back to Kansas here, and I think with Care TV, We had 99% of the precincts reporting there. Estes had 53% of the vote, or 60,945. Big Jim Thompson has 51,045% of the vote. So if my arithmetic does not knock me out, there's about an 8% change there. One more time to the Wichita Eagle. We appreciate theirs, and the press there. 53 to 45 is the final estimate. He wins the seat of Mike Propo. Think so, his name. Anyway, the Yellow Brick Road didn't exactly come out tonight, but also it was a very important race. So when you're 30-something points down, you went up 8 points. Not very bad at all. There's also a little article here on Brownback, I think we talked about, is no longer the least popular governor in the states. I don't know who the head, but Sam Brownback. Two-Ton Christie of New Jersey. Oh, boy. That is a dubious situation to be in. I guess you could talk about the Alabama governor, Robert Bentley, but he had a 44% approval rating, 17 points higher than Brownback. I guess we didn't give. Data shows 60% of the people responding disapproved of Brownbacks. That's quite a few. Let's see, 66% and 27% approval rating. The second place finish of Brownback, who'd been ranked by Martin Consult as the least popular governor. I guess now that goes to Two-Ton Christie, maybe? Anyway, nonetheless, Patrick Miller, a political science professor at the University of Kansas, said he doesn't doubt that Brownback is quite unpopular. No doubt. Moran is another Kansas senator. He has a 51% approval rating. Pat Roberts, who just got reelected not very long ago after resting up, has a 47% approval rating. So in other words, none of these characters are anything to write home about, basically. The Wichita Eagle, the McClatchy family here, we're appreciative of them. Kate TV for our coverage out in Wichita, Kansas. We'll talk to you soon from WBRN Radio in Boston on the Boston Red Network. This is Boston Red. And good evening. All right. Here we go.